Alright, Shalom. It's Brother Isaiah from GMS Raleigh, GMS North Carolina camp, back with another Lord's willing and fine lesson. Before we go any further, of all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. The ones the apostles and other bishops of great millstones teaching us for sent truth according to the Bible and rule well. And peace and blessings to the elected the nation of Israel. Take their spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai, willing into a Lord's willing and a fine lesson. On the day of the Lord, which is very important because we do have the desire for the day of the Lord to come to pass. And as you can see, a lot of, day of the circumcision are people who know they're Israelites. They have this same desire. But when that day comes, they're going to receive a different outcome, right? Not the outcome that they're looking for, not the outcome of salvation, mercy, ultimately because they're not preparing themselves, for this battle, the spiritual warfare that we're in, right? And they're, corrupting themselves with the ways of the world. And when you do this, right, that displeases, puts you in the bad light in the eyes of Yahweh Shema Shai. This is Matthew 7:21. Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. Right? And this Lord is, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Shai. So you're going to have men who know Yahweh Shai's name, right? Understand that, he's a, as IUIC likes to say it, the gospel is, God is black, keep the commandments. It's just like that, that's the gospel. That's the good news. The prophets are black, God is black, his son is black, and keep the commandments. That's the gospel. And there, even, our people, right, that say, Lord, Lord, in these times that we're coming into, that Lord, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Shema Shai, save me, their prayers are not going to be answered. Their prayers are not going to be heard. Right? Let me just prove that one, really quick. St. John 9:31. It says, now we know that Yahweh heareth not sinners, but if any man be a worshipper of the Most High, and doeth his will, him he heareth. Right? So it's very important to know and to make sure you're doing the will of the Most High, right? And that's the spirit our Lord Yahweh Shai was in, right? St. John 4:23, but the hour cometh and now is when the true worshipper shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. Yahweh is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth, right? When you jump down to verse 32, verse 34 is the point. Yahweh Shai saith unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me, right? Because you read the context that, you're telling Yahweh Shai to eat, you got to eat. And why do you need to eat? For strength, because it suffices you. It gives you the nourishment for your body, right? And Yahweh Shai is, what nourishes him, what gives him strength is doing the will of the Most High, right? And that's why it's important that we're doing the will of the Most High. So when the day of the Lord comes, right, we can call upon him and be heard and accepted, right? Yahweh Shai saith unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish the work. So not only to start the work, but, as, our, Kobe Bryant, like say, once said, job's not finished. Job's not finished, right? So we don't want to fall under the, the perdition, destruction of the ungodly, right? So we have to examine ourselves, because here in Matthew 7:21 says, not every one that saith unto me, Yahweh Shai, shall enter into the kingdom of the Most High, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. So while you're here, during this time of grace, you should be doing the will of the Most High. And the will of the Most High should be sufficient enough for you. It should give you all the fuel that you need to deal with the BS that we deal with here in Babylon the Great, from the elements to the, work conditions, living conditions, food conditions. Just a condition. This is what the angel tell Ezra, right? This is a condition of the battle that men that are born upon the earth must fight. You see, it says, not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many shall say unto me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name, and in thy name cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works? Yeah, you got guys that go on the highways and hedges, they preach the word, and some of them are sincere, right? But but some of them aren't. And those who aren't sincere, right? They're getting the following. They think they're doing the work of Yahweh by Shema Shai. They're maybe defending the gospel on certain points. Bringing good point outs, bringing edification out. But it's about working out your own salvation and fear and trembling. This is the point in 23. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Right? I never knew you. Ye depart from me. And the Most High, eyes are too holy to behold wickedness. The Most High, told Ezra, right, through the angel Uriel, I've drawn nigh unto thee and unto men like thee, but never unto the wicked. Right? So the Most High is not drawing nigh unto the wicked. The Most High isn't hearing the prayers of the wicked. So when you cry unto the Lord during the time of Jacob's trouble, you're not going to be heard, right? Let me grab this precept. I believe it's been a while since we brought this one out, so that's why I want to bring it out. This is Proverbs 28:9. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination. Right? An abomination is a wicked and filthy act. It's like, how dare you call upon me when, let me see. I never get those right. Let me see if it's just call, or I want to say it's call us. Okay, it's not. It's just, this is St. Luke 6 and 46. Why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? Right? It says, whosoever cometh to me and heareth my sayings and doeth them, right? Faith, you have to embody your faith, with your works. It says, and doeth them, I will show you to whom he is like. He is like a man which built an house and digged deep and laid the foundation on a rock. And when the flood arose, right, this is exactly what it says in Matthew, the 7th chapter, just in Luke, a little bit down more, right? This is it says Slakia. And he is like unto a man which built an house and digged deep and laid the foundation on a rock, right? And that rock represents Yahweh Shai, a solid foundation. And that's what's being laid in Zion, that sure foundation. That precious cornerstone. He that believeth will not make haste. Right? So in a man, right? What is that? I meant to go first. What's that? 1 John 3 and 1 John 3 and 3. It says, and every man that hath this hope in himself purifieth himself, even as he is pure. So if you have the expectation of, joint heirs with Yahweh Shai, a new body, right? Rulership in the kingdom of heaven, the heathens that are subject, what would you be doing? You would be purifying yourself even as he is pure, right? So when we go back to Luke, the 6th chapter, Luke chapter 6, verse 48, he is like a man which built an house and digged deep and laid the foundation on a rock. And when the flood arose and the stream beat vehemently upon that house and could not shake it, for it was founded upon a rock. Right? So when tribulation and things arise, because you have the hope in Yahweh Shema Shai, and you're being a doer of the word, not just a hearer only, you have built up, that's what's in the fear of the Lord, is strong confidence, right? You've built up a strong hedge of protection because that righteousness works, right? Righteousness works, right? When we serve the Lord with fear and trembling, we go through our ups and downs and we maintain our integrity. During this time of grace, you see that righteousness works, right? You're trying out righteousness and you're seeing, this is a back-tested and proven strategy. We need to keep this strategy going. This strategy works, right? But our people, the wicked of our people, who are being led astray, the leaders of this people cause them to err, right? And those who are led by them, are destroyed, right? Those who are following these false teachers and prophets who hear the will of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, and doeth it not. It says in verse 49, but he that heareth and doeth not is like a man that without a foundation built an house upon the earth, against which the stream did beat vehemently, and immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. Right? So when adversity arises, right? If thy faint in the day of adversity is because thy strength is small, you don't have any true strength, within you, because Yahweh Shai is not in you, right? And Yahweh Shai not being in you, right, in the day of adversity, the days that we're coming into, meaning the blood of the Lamb is not covering you. You're not covered, right? Meaning when judgment comes over, you're not going to be passed over. Mercy is not going to be shown to you. And that's why here in Amos, the 5th chapter, there's a strict warning to those who desire the day of the Lord, but who are not in the right spirit. Amos 5:18, woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. The end of it for you is darkness and not light, because Yahweh Shai, who is a true light, was never in you. So your expectation, right, is going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth, right? It says, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand upon a wall and the serpent bit him. Shall not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light, even very dark, and no brightness in it for those who are wicked? Shall not the day of the Lord be very dark? Shall not the day of the Lord be full of different calamities, from one calamity to the next, with no sign of ease upon the evildoers? Right? Let me see if there was any more in that Matthew 7. I think I quoted the last verse. Yep, and then we kind of read, the rest of this in Luke, the 6th chapter. Let's go to John, the 3rd chapter, and we'll go ahead and close out the lesson. I really like, the scripture here in John 3. And we just go straight to the point in verse 19. And this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. We have the flavor of the week. It seems like we got the flavor of the week, and then we got the side dish with another bug out camp speaking some madness. You got the BOW Israelites. You got IUIC. They're always in rotation of all the degenerate breakdowns that they have, that they bring out. But these Genesis guys, in the spirit of, we don't need Yahweh Shai, we don't need the disciples and apostles that Yahweh Shai have set up, we don't need them. That's the spirit that they are in, right? And if you're not a follower of a Paul, then you're not a follower of Yahweh Shai. 1 Corinthians 11:1 tells you that. And men, you're seeing that they love evil. They love They love to be void of understanding, void of knowledge. They are willingly ignorant of the responsibilities that Yahweh Shema Shai requires of us as an Israelite to uphold in these last days, right? To have discipline, temperance, be consistent, right? Have courage, right? We got to be very courageous in these last days, right? To keep moving forward when chips are down, you're all in. If you're all in, you're all in. You don't have any, gunpowder, to load up. You're all in already, and that's how it is for us, or the household of faith. We're already all in because we love the light. We love Yahweh Shema Shai, and not only in word, but in deed and in truth, we show the Lord that we love Him. Right? It says, "For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest their deeds should be reproved." And every time we reprove these guys, it's hate. So much can't be. But we're doing this to save your soul because we're letting you know. Man ran into a house, and that serpent bit him. You flee from one dire situation to the next. That's what's coming. That's what we're warning you about. Take the time of grace serious. Get right. Approve your own selves. It says, "For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, lest their deeds should be reproved. But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds be made manifest, that they are wrought in the Most High." Yeah, so, we've come to the Most High. We're trying to the best of our ability to serve Yahweh Shema Shai with fear and trembling, every single day. Even when you don't feel good, you still got to serve the Lord with fear and trembling. That's where the fear comes in. That's that motivator, right? And that's what gives you the strong confidence to know that whatever you're going through is going to work out, right? Yahweh Shema Shai is with you. But without fear, there is no confidence. Since I quoted it, let's go ahead and grab it. Proverbs, I believe it's Proverbs 16. No, it's Proverbs 6 and 16. Actually, no. I'm thinking of a different one. That's a good one too. It's 14 and 20. Like 14 and 24, 14 and 26. Yep, Proverbs 14 and 26. "And the fear of the Lord is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge." And we understand that fear coincides with being obedient, so that you may call upon the name of the Lord, and your house is built upon that solid foundation. You can be protected. The day of the Lord is going to be full of light, because we understand these things that are come to the earth are created for the wicked, and for their sakes came the flood. The wicked of our people, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the 2/3 that are allotted for destruction, here on the shores of America. So with that, I'm pretty edified. Next, I'm going to say Shalom.